Tiffany Caicco is a seasoned yoga teacher, registered psychotherapist, professional art therapist, holds a certificate in thanatology, which is the study of death and dying, and holds an advanced certification in Buddhist psychology with a concentration in compassion. Tiffany is also an experienced and educated meditation teacher qualified to teach mindfulness based stress reduction and is registered with Yoga Alliance as an advanced yoga teacher. Tiffany, welcome to Elevating Women's Wellness. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me on this program. I'm excited to be here.
So, tell us about yourself and how you became interested in a holistic approach to psychotherapy.
Oh, that's a great question. It's been a long journey that has evolved over time. I've always been sort of interested in that holistic approach. And, when I say holistic, I like to think of that as the physical aspect, our kind of emotional body, the mental, psychological, as well as our spiritual and energetic body or realm of being. So it sort of encompasses everything that you can see and all the stuff that you can't see as well. And I think it's, part of that is from my upbringing. I was really fortunate. My mom was a really interesting lady who was into um, meditation and yoga and health foods. So when I was younger, I got exposed to all this, and she was also a Buddhist, so she was into Buddhism and not really practicing as much, but it was something that she understood, and she would teach me lessons. So I was exposed to this, and then just even my own journey, going through those teenage years that were really difficult for me, and then I was a young single mom, and so navigating the world, in when experiencing my own challenges, I really approached my healing journey through a holistic lens. And so some of the things that I found helped me, and what I noticed, was really beneficial for other people, and women in particular, was sort of a holistic approach. So, what does nourish your spiritual or that energetic or emotional body? Is it music? Is it art? Is it nature walks? And or is it yoga? Is it exercise? Is it connecting with other people in similar circumstances? So community is important. And so I sort of learned through my own journey and through observing others and through connecting with other women, and sort of pieced together something that I thought is really beneficial.
I love that. It sounds like an interesting journey that you've had from, early childhood and being exposed to different ways of thinking, different healing modalities, and then carrying that through your life as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important to, just nurture those different parts of us, right? And one of the things, my mother was the first one to introduce me to yoga, and in the 70s. And, I'd wear this little ballerina outfit, and we would open this book, and there was a German lady, her name was Karen. I can't remember her last name, but we'd open the book, and then I sort of let that go, but I brought it back into my life later on. And I just thought, oh, I just love this. And it was so healing. And then it introduced me to different ways to heal, like nonverbal versus, talk therapy, or verbal ways to heal. Right. So that's where the art comes in, and the music and the play therapy versus, talk therapy, which is very cerebral and
Mhm.
cognitive based. And so kind of putting it all together so different people can explore and express themselves differently.
So true.
Yeah.
So, how does creativity and self expression support women's wellness?
We're born to be creative, so to speak. I mean, I think it's, we forget that, it is our creativity that has helped us survive in the world and problem solve throughout since the beginning of time. But also, it's something that is, it's innate in us, and it helps us be curious and more open and more resilient. And I just think it's a beautiful way to express yourself as well. And in terms of healing and how it helps people, I think a lot of the stuff that we carry and some of our baggage is, um, held in us in our deep unconscious and on an unconscious level. And with creativity, it's a way to express yourself on an unconscious level, if that makes any sense. You sort of, if you can imagine, drawing a picture just and being able to explore and express yourself. And sometimes it doesn't make sense to you on a, cognitive, but it's sort of your unconscious is your way of expressing itself. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I think it's a being creative and exploring your creativity and being able to express yourself creatively is a really great way to heal. And I think it's very empowering as well because it takes a lot of courage to express yourself. And
Yes.
right, and a lot of times creativity or the person not doing the creative work or that artistic expression, but when you're putting it out there, people observe it subjectively, right? So sometimes it's not always received in the same way that you might be putting it out there. So it takes a lot of bravery and courage to express yourself, and that can be empowering to be able to do that.
Absolutely. I could see how that's the case. And, so often people tap into creative pursuits as a self care practice. I love it as applied to healing. I think it's so wonderful too. And the empowerment piece, I love that. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and I think also too, there's been tons of studies that indicate that creativity and expressing yourself in a creative way increases positive emotions. It lessens your depressive symptoms, can reduce stress, anxiety, improve immune system functioning, and it just has a. I think it has a positive benefit to our moods and our just our being, right? So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, why are purpose and passion important in our lives as women?
Purpose is it's sort of it's the why. It's our or maybe it's not our raison d'etre, but it's a sort of the why. It's why we do things, and it can they say its purpose is the ultimate motivator, so it can propel you into action. And it is sort of it's like a guidepost or a road sign. If you have a purpose, it helps you make decisions. It helps you set goals. It helps put you on that right path. It sort of acts as a bit of a compass for you. And, sometimes purpose isn't an easy thing to find or to define. And that can be challenging for people.
Mhm.
I sometimes in my practice, some women will say, I don't even know what my favorite color is. And um, I don't know what I want to do, or I don't know what I like. So it sounds like it's so easy and, just find your purpose and, and you'll be fine. But it can be challenging, right? To pinpoint your purpose. And
Yeah, it's true.
yeah.
I can see how it might be a challenge for some, certainly. And I know it's a non conventional question, but I ask my patients about how they articulate or how they would articulate their understanding of their purpose, because I recognize that there's a growing body of research about how it impacts our physical health, mental health, and even longevity
Mhm.
if we're clear and aligned with our life purpose. So I think it's such an incredible thing to even keep as an open question if we're not quite clear on what that answer is. I think there's a lot of value in that.
Right. Well, and one of the reasons for that is because with purpose, you do feel a connection to self and to others and to the world, right? So it does, and the connection to self, others, in the world is so important in overall well-being across the lifespan. So that does it makes perfect sense for that. Yeah, and there's the studies prove it, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what are the signs that a woman might be struggling to meet her own needs?
Oh, that's such a great question, and it's such an important one too. And we all know that everybody has their own challenges, men, women, those who identify as other than. Um, but oftentimes, women, um, have a little bit of an extra burden with children and household. And, although some husbands and men and partners do share in that, um, yeah, women have their own unique challenges. And so, I mean, some of the things that you might see are, increased depression, isolation, a little bit more anxiety, um, just avoidant behavior. So, not wanting to participate or go out or do things, not finding things enjoyable. Um, Maybe some interpersonal problems are showing up for them.
Yeah.
um, those sorts of things, and just feeling like a general malaise, like there's no purpose in life, or there's no like what's it all about, and and feeling maybe a little bit helpless and sometimes hopeless. So I think sometimes it's not obvious, right? It's not like a neon sign on someone's head that, oh, I'm struggling. It can be very subtle. And one of the things that I think is important for a woman herself is to sort of really know your baseline, or really become self-aware of um, what does it mean to be doing okay or well for you. What does that look like? And sort of, examine different areas of your life, your home, family, social, vocational, and other aspects of your life, things that are meaningful to you or create meaning, and sort of see where you are. And then, this way you can kind of do some critical self-reflection, where you say, oh, I'm really struggling with these few aspects right now. And it's that can help. And if you're close to someone, or if you work with someone and you get to know them, you sort of are able to sometimes see little subtle little changes, and that can help too in communicating, or offering assistance or help or support to for friends and family and
I think
yourself.
that it's a really practical strategy of, establishing that baseline for yourself. And it's true. I can think about my own connections with others and see like when people have deviated from what you might consider come to know as their baseline. And we can look at that for ourselves too. I really like that. It's very helpful.
Yeah, and I for myself personally, I mean, when I was a teenager, I had depression. I don't anymore. I don't experience depression anymore. But if I become overwhelmed, I sort of take a break, right? So I might not call my friends as much. I might not go out. So the friends who know me really well, if they don't hear from me, say in 2 weeks, because I've been busy, or just I'm taking more baths than usual, or I'm just kind of in that recalibrate stage, I might get a call, or, a friend will drop off something like some soup or something, saying, hey, I'm thinking about you. I haven't heard from you in a couple of weeks. So it's really nice to have friends like that, or to have people in my life who can recognize those sorts of things. So I think it's important for us too to really take care of each other, and support your family, support your friends and your coworkers. And when you notice that something isn't the same, there's really subtle and beautiful ways that you can support people.
Yeah, and it comes back to what you mentioned at the outset about community and how important it is to support each other, and that it doesn't necessarily have to be this like individual pursuit, like you are somehow an island. Like we can be interdependent on each other and have those really loving connections and supportive connections.
Oh, right. That's so beautiful. Right. And simple things, right? To show your support. It doesn't have to be, a big deal or anything. It could be, you buy them a coffee, or, you bring them in like a cookie or a tea, or so, if you work with someone, you can bring them a little, you know, gift from home, or something, something really simple. But yeah,
Yeah, so true. It can just be that small gesture and it can make all the
the
difference.
difference. Oh, for sure. Right. I know. So important.
What are common obstacles that women encounter who are struggling to find their purpose?
Yeah. I did some notes. I wrote, and I was like, really, I made some great notes earlier. And some obstacles. So I have my little notes here too.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Yeah. What are some obstacles? Well, I mean, uh, fear of failure, fear of expressing yourself. Um, sort of not understanding clarity, or where to start. You know, I often think people become so overwhelmed with stuff that it's hard to know where to start, right? So breaking things down, so that it's can be simpler. And you know, I talked about the self awareness. Um, so one of the obstacles is not really being self aware, not really knowing, you know, how far off you are from your baseline. So um, that can be an obstacle. So not doing enough critical self reflection. I think, you know, self reflection is so important for all of us to do. You know, we kind of we like roll through life, and sometimes we keep making the same mistakes over and over again. And it's like, oh my gosh, like I I just did I did it again. Like, oops, I did it again. What's going on here? You know, so that I think that can be an obstacle, just sort of not slowing down, pausing, and not taking time for ourselves, not spending good quality self-care. And you know, which doesn't mean going out and buying expensive bath products, but it could mean like, you know, instead of going on Facebook for 2 hours, take a half an hour, go to the park, sit quietly in nature, watch the sunset, you know, wake up early, watch the sunrise, like give yourself some time and some, you know, so you can nourish yourself on just on those deeper levels, right? And
Mhm.
enjoy the quiet and the stillness. Because I think in the hustle and bustle of this crazy life that we're leading, we don't give ourselves enough time to pause
Yeah.
and listen to the silence and listen to the cues that are arising in our body. I think that can be an obstacle.
Mhm.
Um, what else can be an obstacle? Well, like setting goals. If you're not setting goals, um, it can be easy to get off track, right? That could be
Mhm.
an obstacle. And, you know, just there's so many things that, you know, a fear of just the way that, you know, we've learned to cope
Yeah.
o- over time, right? All of us have what I like to call stinking thinking, or, you know, thinking distortions
Yeah.
that become ingrained in the way that we sort of think, feel, and act. And sometimes those old assumptions and beliefs that we've sort of carried with us
Mhm.
for a long time, they can become obstacles because it's hard for us to sort of shift perspective
Yeah.
sometimes and see the world differently and see ourselves differently. So really taking time to challenge those core beliefs in your value system and, you know, ask yourself, is this serving me anymore? And then re-questioning or asking yourself, like, what do you really embody or what do you want to embody? And I like to also think of it as you know, we sort of, rather than striving to be something all the time, like, you know, we're always chasing something, we're striving to do this or striving for this, rather than striving, sort of living in a way, living mindfully. And so living as if you already are. So, you know, as if you are calm or peaceful or happy or successful or whatever it is. So, sort of living the qualities in the moment. And I think that can help overcome some obstacles too, because that sort of helps us shift some of those core beliefs that might not be serving us. Like,
Mhm.
or yeah, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
That's really helpful perspective. I think if we can sometimes just reframe something, see it in a different way, then there is that opportunity to see ourselves in a new light. And you don't have to be there. I mean, ahead of the game. You can just start where you are. And like you said, embody those qualities now. How would I behave or think or be if I was already that, right?
Right. And also, you know, I think as humans, you know, we're so hardwired to like reject any sort of discomfort or pain or uncomfortable anything. Right. And so when you're living in the moment and you're sort of enjoying the ride, you know, you're more open to allow yourself to meet that discomfort and be able to handle it. And that ties in with the resilience as well. But um, and it, you know, it makes it, I think it does, and I think as women too, over time and as we mature and go through all our crazy life experiences that come not only with um, experience, but also with age, right? And the transformation that the women go through, right? We have menses, we have our period, we give birth, we, have that, or not always, but, we go through that phase.
Mhm.
Um, unless there's been some sort of medical thing. But then you reach a point where, you go through menopause, so you're at a different phase biologically. And so it all kind of changes your perspective as you go, right? So I don't know. There's just there's so much, and it's such an interesting conversation, right? And
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it is so fascinating, and we can accumulate that wisdom as we go. And I'm curious with respect to, I mean, you're so well credentialed. I'm curious to hear about what can the study of death and dying teach us about purpose?
well, that's such a great question. Well, I was fortunate enough to be able to work at Arch for a few years, and that was such a beautiful experience. And I think I mean, I can't. It's such an interesting question because I've never been close to death personally, so I'm sort of surmising based on my experience, and then working with people. And what I've learned is that when people are close to death and they're dying, what matters is the relationships that they've formed in life, the people that they love, and really nothing else, like none of the petty stuff. And what they want to do is they want to rekindle broken relationships, and love those people that they love as hard as they can for as long as they can, right? and and I think what it teaches us about purpose is that, um, we all need to feel connected. We all need to feel as though our life has meaning. And and so, learning and really appreciating life, and being able to, and even with purpose too, purpose could be simple. It doesn't have to be anything complex. It all really is just means that you want to create something meaningful for you, and that's your purpose. So it could be, I want to garden, and that be a gardener and make my yard beautiful, and that's my purpose, and that's a beautiful thing. And so it if you can really appreciate the simple things and create meaning for you and for those you love, then you're living life to the fullest. So when your life comes to, that um, inevitable end, like we all will pass, we will find comfort in knowing that, we contributed some way to our life, and hopefully have contributed and made it meaningful to others as well. So,
Mhm. Yeah, thank you for sharing your perspective. I think it's so interesting because we can take lessons from that and focus in on what is most important,
right. Yeah.
for us, for ourselves, to really narrow in on our purpose and be living more in alignment with it.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And it's a lot of that, some of the work in, when working with people who are dying, is the meaning making, and that's so, it's such an important part, and that's, I think, where the purpose, that's where it really connects on that level.
Mhm. And I have a final question for you,
Yeah.
Tiffany. Resilience is a topic that is so important to women's wellness, and it's a topic that I just love. What does becoming more resilient mean to you, and how does it relate to the women that you work with?
Oh, wow. Well, resilience is such a great thing, and it's interesting because it's a hot topic right now, right?
Yes.
And resilience goes hand in hand with trauma,
Mm.
basically. And so the way I like to define resilience is sort of in through the trauma. So we're humans are hardwired hardwired to deal with trauma. There's just, I mean, that's just the way it is. And humans have experienced trauma upon trauma upon trauma since recorded history, right? Since the time that we became humans on this planet.
Mhm.
And if we weren't hardwired for trauma, we wouldn't be here right now. So, and the reason why we're here is because of our resilience. So it's sort of, can you have resilience without trauma? Probably not, right? There has to be some sort of um, episode or trigger or event that creates a reason to be resilient. So whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, I think we're constantly looking for sort of a rebound effect. You see it in nature, and that's humans are the same way, where we're sort of um, trying to come back to that baseline in a sense,
Mhm.
right? And resilience, you get resilience a number of different ways. And I know for us, for humans in particular, it's resilience is something that you can offer your children at a very early age, from in utero, and those first few years, forming strong attachments, and lots of nurturing, compassion, empathy, teaching them empathy and sharing empathy with them. All of those things um, enhance resilience, um, and so it's a really interesting topic. We could talk about resilience for the whole time, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I love that. But I always like to say, we're hardwired to deal with the trauma, and as humans, we're so resilient. And I think sometimes we forget how resilient we are, and we need to remind ourselves that, you know, that we got this. We got this. We can do this, and sort of teaching and tapping into that resilience too is really important.
Yeah, so true. It's such an inspiring message. I want to thank you, Tiffany, for sharing all your wisdom and insights and knowledge. I know that our audience is really going to benefit tremendously from hearing from you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. I appreciate it.
Yes, and thank you again.
Thank you.